is the Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Ivor Stratford, the co-founder and CEO of Morpheus, a leading consultancy specializing in talent solutions and executive recruitment. With over a decade of experience in strategic recruitment, advisory, and high-level consulting, Ivor has supported a wide range of organizations, from fast-growing startups to large corporations, in their pursuit of hiring and retaining top talent that truly makes a difference. His professional journey began at Citi, followed by roles at companies such as Hydrogen Group, Valdis Group, and Ecom Consulting, before co-founding Morpheus, where he now acts as a trusted advisor for businesses looking to align their culture, values, and goals with the right people. Ivor, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, all. Thanks for having me.
So great. So where are you calling from today?
I'm currently in London, but fresh off a week in San Francisco and a week in New York.
Wow. Great. So let's talk about, Morpheus Groups and their evolution. How's the organization's mission and portfolio evolved under your leadership?
Good question. I think we're really doubling down over the last 5 and a bit years now in the venture space. So working with as early stage as possible, building relationships with founders at pre-seed, seed stage, with a view and I guess a mission that we can support a founder or founders from seed to event, whether that be private equity, whether that be trade, whether that be IPO. So yeah, really spending a lot of time getting to know founders and investors and helping them with how they think about talent, hiring, and growth.
Good. So what distinct value propositions do you bring to the investment innovation landscape, especially relative to your peers?
On the investor side, so I'm fairly active and becoming more active as an angel investor, where there I think I have a little bit of an unfair advantage. As I said, I'll, from a recruitment, talent, staffing, exec search standpoint, get to spend a heap of time with founders across the US. So whether that be SF, New York, Austin, across the country, where we're helping them hire. Also, at certain moments in time, they are raising capital. So I'm able to have some access to some of these folks that are raising at certain points. And from that standpoint, and the earlier you go in the evolution of a business at pre-seed and seed, even Series A, the only thing you're really backing at that point is talent. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, there are many industries and technologies that are hot these days, such as AI, technology, emerging technology. What is Morpheus Group most excited about?
So we've been heavily focused for the last 5 and really nearly 5.5 years in machine learning and AI. I think now it's the application layer of where AI sits. I think with the organizations and companies we're working with that are seeing the most success, that they are hyper focused on one particular niche or one particular sector they're trying to support rather than being AI for everyone.
Great. Any particular applications you find are really getting traction?
I think the conversational AI space is, I think a few years ago, people thought it was done, where there were some huge players out there that were mopping up that market. But we're working with a number of conversational AI vendors currently that are taking that technology stack and getting way more specific in the use case. One in particular, I won't name them because I don't know if they want to be named and they're still very early, but it's using conversational AI specifically for drive-through technology. So if you're going to get your iced latte or your Big Mac, you're talking to AI and that then processes your order, sends it to the barista or the kitchen, which obviously removes cost and increases the chance of getting what you want.
Wow, technology is moving fast for sure. So how do you identify and evaluate high potential opportunities? What metrics or trends are guiding your decision there?
If it's as an angel investor, at that point, the only thing I'd be thinking about is the founders, what they've done to date. Can they lead? Can they scale? Can they build? Are they gritty? So just really focused on the founder and their backstory, their experiences, and what gives them maybe not necessarily an unfair advantage, but gives them an unfair advantage to win.
What do you do when you're finding you're coming up short in that direction? How do you shore up the founder?
And when you say coming up short, in
Not
terms of,
they're not hitting the metrics or the goals that you had hoped they had hit.
I think this, I can probably answer this question in one way that answers both our talent and staffing business and me as an angel. That fundamentally, and I've stolen this phrase from someone, and I don't know who, if it's not a hell yeah, then it's a hell no. So there needs to be a very high degree of conviction from the start. In some cases, there's some founders that I've got to know through relationships, through ecosystem, through community, specifically within the HR talent hiring space, where I'm doing some pro bono advisory work, and I'll see through that how backable they are.
Right. Reminds me of the quote I heard from another founder the other day that says, potential is not conviction. It's something you have to have more than just potential. So that's a
Yeah.
good one. So let's talk about your approach to partnering with entrepreneurs. How do you balance strategic direction, support, and all the creative autonomy that gives the founder what they need to do their job?
It's a great question, and I could probably go on for a long time on this, so I'll try not to. I think everyone has their big, hairy goal that they're trying to achieve and striving for in 36 months from now, 46 months from now, 5 years from now, who knows? I think for me, it's what they're trying to achieve in the short term, and that could be the next, say, 4 to 12 weeks. What does that sprint look like? I have people that I work with that do this for me, and I do this again, sort of pro bono ad hoc for other founders, keeping them on track because there's so many whizzy, shiny things going on when you're trying to scale, you're trying to build a company, whatever it is you're trying to do, just really staying on track. And what is the one thing we're trying to do this week or this month that's going to help move the business forward, rather than joining a call or a meeting and it being, I know we said we do this, but this opportunity has come up and it's like, let's stop that conversation. We said this is the absolute priority. Why are we talking about this thing that may or may not yield any value? So I think it's just really about keeping people disciplined and staying on track with what they're trying to achieve.
That's a good point. So let's talk about the ecosystem building. How does Morpheus Group contribute to, your region's innovation ecosystem? You working on collaborations, incubators, events. Where do you engage most?
Events, dinners, run clubs, lunches, 1, 2, 3 day conferences, anything that's in real life. So again, as a business, our core focus is supporting founders in AI. As a business and from an outbound go-to-market standpoint, I would say we are very anti-technology. Everyone can go and buy some kind of whizzy sales AI SDR tool, which if everyone can do that, does it give you any kind of advantage? So for the last, really since January 2022, we've been hugely focused on in real life, in-person dinners, events. The more curated, the better. Predominantly in New York. That said, I was in SF 2 weeks ago. I'm back there next week. And that's where we are able to offer most value in those kind of sidebar, someone asks you a question about how would you think about this? That helps us build relationship, drive trust, drive integrity, and gets us in the room that ordinarily would be very hard to get into. So we use it, it's great from a sales go-to-market standpoint, but it's also a way for us to offer value ahead of there being any transaction. And on that, well, I certainly take a fairly medium to long-term view on ROI. So it could be a founder or a leader in a business that came to an event we hosted 24 months ago, and it's only as recently as like this week or last week, we're having conversations about doing actual business together. So we don't see that kind of ecosystem, community build, events offer as a way to get people in the room and like hard sell them there and then. And the feedback we often get is, you didn't sell to us once. I'm like, yeah, we don't need to. Like, this is how we work, this is how we operate. And through that, building trust, building reputation, we like to think that when you do have a need, you'll come to us and it just establishes the relationship early on.
That's great. So you work in the AI space, one of the frothiest spaces we've seen in quite some time. How does your firm navigate uncertainty or volatility, especially in such a fast moving sector or market like AI?
We don't. It's, it's probably a good way to just to be really honest. I've almost given up. Well, no, I've completely given up with trying to stay up to date with deals, who's raising capital, what's going on, what's happening in the world, because there, as you say, it's very frothy. There is just so much going on. Right now, it feels like in certain parts of the US, everyone's a founder, everyone's building the next AI rocket ship. And to your earlier quote, which I can't quite remember, well, potential doesn't equal conviction, and certainly potential doesn't equal results. So if I'm looking at on the investor side, if I'm looking at a company, I would expect to see, even at very early stage, there be some kind of MVP or traction or proof point or use case that this is a thing and it's backable with all the technology that's available right now, that you can spin something up very quickly, or at least some kind of customer interviews. So we'll need to see some sort of very high level traction to, if I'm looking at it from an investor standpoint. From a talent and hiring standpoint, certainly if it's early stage, the talent we're representing and we're introducing to these businesses, a lot of their compensation, or certainly the upside, is made up in equity. So they're going to be wearing almost an investor-like hat. So how are they looking at companies? Is this like a proper company with proper technology, or is it very much a wrapper? Like, what's their defensible moat? So I'll be looking at things on both sides. Is this real, or is this kind of something that's been spun up overnight that in 6 months' time won't stand the test of time?
Great. Well, let's talk about sustainability impact. Where does sustainability, ESG, or long-term value creation fit into Morpheus Group's investment thesis?
So from my personal investment thesis, I like companies and founders that want to have a positive impact on the world. And that can be in many ways, shapes, and sizes. It can be the sector or industry that they're focused on selling to. There's a couple of founders out there I'm working with that are building tools, building AI products to serve the kind of SMB, you know, founder operated business in not particularly sexy and glamorous ways, with a view that, and their mission is all of the technology that's being developed and being built and being shipped today isn't solely reserved for the big banks, the big insurers, the Fortune 50, Fortune 100. And there's a way there that they can drive value. So yeah, just constantly looking at ways where founders are trying to leave a positive impact on the world.
It's good. It's good. So let's talk about lessons learned. Can you talk about a standout win or even a misstep that offered an important lesson? What did you take away from it?
Too many lessons to count because there's been too many mistakes, and I think that's part of the game. As I said earlier, based in London, building in the US, the US is 99 to 100% of our revenue, and this is under Morpheus. We made some mistakes when building physical presence, boots on the ground in the US 18 months or so ago, where I wasn't there. We were hiring remotely. We're going again and doing that now, or certainly putting wheels in motion, that if we want to export what's working for us in our UK office, ways of working, culture, systems, process, just how we do things, how we show up for clients we work with, all that sort of stuff. It's about being physically present with them. Maybe not forever, but certainly a elongated period of time. It's not a week onboarding ramp and disappear. I think that's been the biggest lesson, that trying to onboard, in terms of headcount, we're a small business, trying to get people to operate in the way that we want and what we know works, doing that purely via video is very difficult.
That's a good one. So, what big picture trends or innovations excite you right now? And how does Morpheus Group plan to position itself going forward in respect to those?
Wow, there's a lot. I think one that's very much front of my mind is that whether you're building a product business or in services or investor fund side, that you can build, as of today, or certainly the thesis is there, very high performing, high revenue, high margin, highly profitable businesses where you don't need hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world. So I think being small and being agile today gives you a potentially unfair advantage, that your systems and processes and ways of working can be built in a more efficient way using technology. Where if you're a 5,000, 50,000 person business trying to adopt technology, AI, machine learning, all of these principles, it takes time. So being smaller today, I think gives you a maybe an unfair advantage or at least some sort of advantage.
You think that's a impact of AI? It makes you smaller teams more nimble. You can do a lot more with fewer people, or is it just a philosophy?
I think you can do more with fewer people. I think you can operate more efficiently. You can operate at speed, and I think that's one of the things from where I sit at Morpheus. One thing where we get great feedback from clients all the time is speed on execution and how quickly we deliver.
Do you have a formal rule around team sizes like Amazon? We had the two pizza rule. No team is more than can feed two two pieces can feed them all. Is that something you adhere to, or what size are you talking about?
It's a great question. I think if you're if, for my business, teams of 4 to 6 people can outperform a team of 5 years ago that will be double the size. Again, with tooling, with technology, and how quickly we have access to the stuff that we have access to. So we internally we call them squads, that you don't need a 25 person team where everyone has like super clearly defined 2 or 3 specific responsibilities that, yeah, smaller agile squads are can be more effective.
Mhm. Absolutely. I like small myself. I worked for a company where we were small to begin with. It had a lot of fun. It would be a big company, and then everything became budgets, forecasts, and things I didn't care about and didn't like it so much anymore. So big brings its own problems with overhead and other things with it. So love to get back to the small for sure. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here today, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Another good question. I think I think we've covered a lot. Yeah, nothing else from me.
That's great. Well, one question I had was you travel, San Francisco to New York to London and so forth. That's a lot of ground to cover, but what's the advantage of being in all of those markets with one company? It seems like you might have some cross synergies going on, or what do you find is the competitive advantage there?
Think a lot of the founders we're working with today will have like federated teams across the US. Often we see technical co-founders may be in SF, and then some of the non-technical co-founders go to market, operational leaders are in New York. So I have no percentage on this, but I would say the vast majority of clients that we're working with today have a physical presence in both SF and in New York. So if we're supporting them from a talent, hiring, growth standpoint, we really need to understand their business, what makes them work, what makes them stand out, what does their culture look like, how do their leaders lead, how do they build things, so we can really understand the business. So it's really just about spending time physically in their office, hanging around the coffee machine, meeting people, and picking up those stories and anecdotes. So there's probably 80% of the work we can do, like from our office, fully remote. And then the classic Pareto, the 20%, the super high value stuff comes out in person. And we're also doing that for some kind of brand build. I think we've done over the last 5 and a bit years some great work. I think as a business, we're pretty terrible at telling people about that, which maybe that's a British trait. I don't know. So we're trying to just get on the ground, build relationships with people, help build our brand, and offer value to founders kind of across the US.
That's great. It's great to see a group that's so customer centric that the customer's work structure informs your work structure, and so it's great to see you're modeling that way. So, how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
For me, LinkedIn is a great place to look. So yeah, my name's Ivor Stratford. So yeah, feel free to connect on LinkedIn, and yeah, happy to chat.
Great. We'll put your contact details in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope to have you back for a follow up soon.
Thanks all.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.